5-star Scarlet Witch. Yes, I cannot quite believe that I'm going to be doing a video on a 200 signature 5-star 565 Scarlet Witch. Now, just to be perfectly honest, I don't know when the crystals for this champion will drop. Now, Kabam said that we could release videos as of the 7th of September. I recorded footage of the champion in action, but didn't do any recording of, say, what I'm going to be doing now, where I'm going to talk about the idea of, like, value of the champion, where it's applicable, is it still applicable, is it current meta, those things. So yeah, everything's a bit askew, so apologies, but at the same time, like, it's removed, so I can't do anything. But in any case, I'm going to be positive and get on with the video. Now, the real fans of the channel will know for the last year, maybe even more than that, I've been pushing the idea of, like, look, we should have a 5-star Scarlet Witch in game. Especially as the current meta of the game has shifted so much that even putting in something like this in its current state, there are other champions out there that, well, will do a lot more damage than this. I know that's a bit of a bold statement to make, but you factor in things like suicide masteries, different elements. You know, Domino is now in the game. When this champion was still there as just an early champion in the game. Like, the idea now, we're at the stage of going, okay, well, in about 10 hits, you can now take down an enemy with a 5-star. Yeah, it's still a bit weird to kind of think that why hasn't this champion been thrusted into this, especially after the 12.0 nerf, and as well with things that were very critical for the champion's damage output. So the main thing being that the signature ability Veil of Fortune, which is centered around the critical rating. It used to be a case you could, if you had a crit rate team, she was able to go like boom crit, boom crit, boom crit, boom crit. And the boom crits, the crits led to really positive effects, like the way that Veil of Fortune works. And you can get one of various buffs or debuffs. The main thing that you really want to see, if you're all about the damage output side of things, you want to see the regen buff come up. Well, lesser likely with the regen, but it mitigates a lot of damage. However, though, if you've got the Fury up, you get also your Cruelty up, and you get those stacking nicely. Your damage output is going to be insane. From experimentation, non-suicides, I was able to produce, I think it was a 66,000 crit on a Cat Marvel in Realm of Legends. Now, does that transpire to every single piece of content? No, especially with the way that nodes are made nowadays. They do undermine a lot of champions, but it doesn't mean to say that she is useless under the current meta. She's still an absolute god and an absolute beast, and a beautiful champion to add to any roster as a 4-star and what seemed to be a rare 5-star. Also, just before going any further with this video, I just want to point out one thing that really disappoints me when these OG champions that now have been put up to 5-star are now being introduced to the game. Now, if you remember back along, I think it was a couple of months ago, we had the Wolverine Early Access Crystal, whatever you want to call it, as it was only limited in its delivery, and as well there wasn't any definitive Cavaliers. This is not something that I overly like and think that is very fair. But look, let's face it. Okay, these can be put in. Yes, it creates a premium narrative to these champions. It does create a rarity. Cool. It's nice to have rare champions. But the extent of money that you'll end up having to put against this, and especially if Kabam, number one, re-roll out these champions again in this type of situation, and as well put out Cavaliers into the crystals section of the game, it still presents of like this real push for the monetary side of things. And especially from these champions being, are they current meta? Kind of. You would say yes, they would. They can be used in some decent elements, especially with a lot of the synergies that are now in place with the changes to Magneto synergy, and as well the synergy with Apocalypse as one of the horsemen, and as well with Professor X. It does mean that they can be of value in future grind, yeah, for sure. But the ways to obtain them, I don't really agree with. And especially if by the time this video is out, that Kabam have done this for Scarlet Witch, I don't think it's really cool. Especially for a point of going like, right, would any of these champions be put into the basic pool, the dual class crystals, or the featured crystal pool? Those will be the big things and the crucial things down the line of how Kabam want to put these champions in. In any case, enough doom and gloom, and let's just focus on the champion. Regardless if it's showing responsibility from these champions being put in these rare crystals or not, let's try and focus solely on the champion and talk about some pros and cons to the just playing of this champion, because it is a very aggressive champion if you want to get off a lot of those buffs. Whoops, slight correction, Scarlet Witch doesn't actually benefit from any of Magneto's synergies, so that's fun, I guess. In any case, on screen at the moment, I'm going to play some of the footage of the champion in action. And I actually really enjoyed playing with Scarlet Witch. It did bring back a lot of old vibes. And as well, the idea of like, look, you know, if I want to ramp up my critical rating, does it help? I don't think it kind of like helps that as much as it used to. So yeah, here's the thing. You just want to see crits. When you see crits, there's an 85% chance, if you have fully ramped up the champion on the signature level, especially as a 4-star, to actually hit off one of the many buffs or debuffs. And they can be really helpful at times, or they can be very blasé. But here's the thing, if you're dealing with champions that gain buffs rapidly, the champion does have a high percentage to nullify some of those buffs. And as well, that is still based off of critical hits. So unfortunately, critical hits are the most crucial thing about Scarlet Witch. And as well, pushing the champion to the SP2 seems to be the best thing. As the attack receives, and this is the 4-star, so the 5-star does differ, the 4-star receives 2444.45 critical rating. That does scale with anything with mastery builds, but yeah, the champion is still pretty fun. If you want a 100% chance to nullify anything, then you just throw an SP3. It's as simple as that. I like Scarlet Witch because she's easy to play, easy to get on with, and there isn't so much of the suppression from different elements that you find. Yes, there will be nodes at times that will stop the implication of gaining a buff if, say, for whatever reason you are staggered and say that is an unavoidable thing. You will find yourself very frustrated. And as well, I find it kind of weird that this Scarlet Witch has been released after the point of Variant 5 going live. I'm not going to say that it's kind of like, oh, this is a an obvious ploy for like, why is it after? Why couldn't it be before? They may have been tweaking something. Could it be a conspiracy? Maybe. I don't know. I can't concrete kind of like give you that evidence to say, look, they held off on Scarlet Witch in order to make sure that Variant 5 was released first, because this would be an amazing champion for Variant 5. And do bear in mind, because of the way that the beta is sorted out, we weren't able to test on Variant 5 Scarlet Witch. Now, here's the thing. I did use a 4-star version of Scarlet Witch on Variant 5. If I find some footage, I will put it on screen of that happening. And like, it was cool. Like, it was amazing to use it. But I just kept feeling to myself, look, this is like 200, I think 200 to 300 hits to do. So it's very time consuming, very boring. So I was thinking to myself, right, well, if I had a 5-star version, how long would this take? And if this would take a fraction of the time, yes, it would feel like we were kind of taking advantage. But at the same time, it's like, well, this is the only time when a Mystic Champion would be of great use, especially for an event which is strictly built for Mystic Champions. I'm not going to say completely, because as well there's a push of Spider-Verse and Symbiotes, of course there is. But at the same time, there are only a restriction to, you can use Mystics on all of them, not just on one specific chapter, which in the beginning I thought that was going to be the case, but as well on all of them. Which, you know, are you going to use any of the symbiotes against Venom? I've seen some cases where people have, but a lot of the times it's a case they're using Mystic Champions. They've got the class advantage, they've got the power control, all the elements that work very, very well against Venom as a final boss. But, again, I digress. Scarlet Witch still possesses that high risk to high reward payout when it comes to the RNG off the crits, and as well what buffs you get. As I said, there are situations where you'll pick up the Fury buff, the Cruelty buff, and as well maybe some regeneration at the same time, which turns you into this kind of on the front foot offensive machine where you're just hitting so much damage, smashing an SP2 and seeing those 66Ks, and that would be an amazing fight. But then you could go to the next fight and find that you're very rarely critting, number one. Number two, that you'll be getting all the debuff side of things and you'll never see the buffs. When I was doing the Variant 5 grind with my 4-star version, I did find it was very rarely that I was picking up the regeneration for about 3 to 4 fights. And if you're doing like 900 hits over the space of those 3 fights, it can be very depressing. So as I said, there's a lot of risk to reward element, and it's not ever guaranteed that in one specific fight you're going to see all the buffs you require to, number one, damage output, and number two, kind of like get all the debuffs to suppress things like power gain. Because that's the thing, if you get the power control element to it and you power lock, that's amazing. The poison side of things, scaling with the 5-star would be so much more like efficient than it would be with a 4-star. But still, like, this is a champion that I've wanted for a while, and I'm pretty excited by this, especially for the point that this could be entering into the game. As I said, by recording this, I don't know if Kabam are going to throw out crystals for this. I think that it should be a case they do that, but as well, and again, as I've said before, I don't agree with the way that they've been put in from a monetary gain side of things. It's just doesn't feel that cool, but it's annoying because I really want to get this champion as a 5-star, and I really would like to like invest in it to a point to get it at 565, and as well up to 200 signatures and smash a load of content. And there we go, that's been a video on 5-star Scarlet Witch. I still cannot believe that we are at a stage where years ago I was like posting loads of Marvel Contest of Champions deep dives, news and speculation videos about this. I did have faith that they would be able to put it in, but it's again posting and pushing the narrative about, look, you can put any champion in that's considered to be god tier with a damage output. You just need to scale it applicably to the content that it's grinding out. But you know, I've just felt that the current meta shift with the amount of damage output other champions do under Suicide Masteries and other factors as well mean that this champion should have been in there for, I'd say, in the last 2 years as well, once I started talking about it. But in any case, your thoughts about 5-star Scarlet Witch, and as well the process of getting these OG champions either put in the game and as well from the purchase standpoint will be interesting as well. So yeah, thanks very much for watching this video. Check out the Marvel Contest of Champions news posted today, all about this hack situation, which also see KT1's video about it as well, because the forum post I think has been taken down. More on that later on. Far left hand corner is some other content. Down here will be Rich's Realm. I'll see you tonight for the Twitch stream. Much love. Bye bye.